The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles. Dom, welcome back.
Yes, Charles, I'm very glad to be back. Commiserations to all who missed one of Australia's finest satirists, Mark Humphries. We couldn't afford him, I don't think, for the rest of the run. But yeah, look, I'm as disappointed as
oh
you
no,
are.
Mark's cheap. He got punted by 7:30, so he's bargain basement.
It's not something I want you to think about any further.
And did you see how good the ratings were for his episodes?
I saw that they were pretty good, but my assumption was that it was people tuning in for me and then thinking, oh, look, we may as well stick with it for now. And I'm going to continue in that belief until proven otherwise.
Fair enough.
So, Charles, it's really fucking hot. It's absolutely insanely hot, almost as though the world is burning to a crisp as we speak.
Yes, that's right. Pretty much the whole of Australia is covered in a heat wave. Although by the time this particular episode comes out, Dom, the heat wave will have broken across most of Australia. So we can just go back to not worrying about it because it will have gone. Yeah.
You know what?
Don't
by the time this ad finishes, everything will be fine. Here it is.
And I think that ad was probably for some sort of fossil fuel gas.
Yes, I hope so.
About you. Yeah, there was
Saudis.
There's lots of complaints about how hypocritical our ads are, but I'm not sure we can control that. I don't think that's not something that we do. Like, that's not something we endorse. It's just like.
Also, did you get into the Chaser thinking we weren't going to be hypocritical? Like, we are part of any problem you care to name.
There is a block list. Like, we don't accept gambling advertising at all. We should probably go through
really
and get
silly.
rid of
We've got to
fossil
change
fuel
that
money.
rule.
You know that if we did, we would not only be rich, Dom, but also our entire podcast would be gambling ads.
Yeah, why did we say no to that? That was so dumb of us.
I know. It's this. It's something my wife was trying to explain to me. It's called integrity or something. I don't know. I never really heard about it, but it's when you do something because you believe in it or something.
That seems insane to me. If we could be funding, particularly if we spend every podcast talking about how awful gambling is, but I mean, in so many ways, listening to this podcast is a massive gamble at the best of times. Listen with your head, not over it. That's what I say.
But there's been so much in the news, Dom.
There has.
Can you tell me some stuff about it?
I could. That's something that I could do. The problem is it would probably involve having to talk about the thing we don't want to talk about. It would involve having to discuss, the thing that's happening in a couple of weeks' time. The event.
What are you talking about?
The voice. We don't want to talk about the voice. Okay. Why not? Why are we whispering? Didn't the polls say that it was behind in every single state?
But isn't that more of a reason to talk about it so that we can rally people to clutch victory from the jaws of defeat?
No, it's over. It's finished, isn't it?
No, you can't say that.
But Charles, we don't want to be the last
people.
You're
a racist for saying that.
Why we don't want to be the last people advocating it if everyone's quietly backing away from it?
No, but people aren't. It's just a surprising number of people in Australia like to vote the same way that racists vote.
Someone the other day tweeted me a link from Kevin Bloody Wilson explaining why he's voting no.
Yes.
And
exactly.
someone else said,
just going,
Charles, but you've got to understand, this is what I saw in my Twitter replies. They figured out how to make it racist in their own heads to vote for the voice. Because someone just wrote, I'm not enshrining a race-based institution in the Constitution because that will be racist.
Isn't the whole, by not recognising the unique history of Indigenous people being here for 60,000 years and then us coming like 200 years ago, isn't that just somewhat racist itself? Like, isn't the document itself a colonial racist document without any recognition?
Only if you think Terra Nullius was wrong. Only if you think that turning up and imposing a constitution where an existing governance structure, indeed millennia-old groups,
the oldest existing continuous culture, as they keep on pointing out to us to make us feel bad.
But if you just ignored that and imposed your constitution without even mentioning it, then you see there wouldn't be racist in the constitution. That you've got to read it on its face. It doesn't mention Aboriginal people at all. Therefore,
And
they
therefore
don't exist.
It's not racist.
Therefore, there's no mention of race. See?
Yes.
But Charles, you got to understand.
In some ways,
there are good reasons.
So this is exactly why it wasn't sexist to not have women in Parliament or give them the vote, because it wasn't even mentioned. Like women
That's
were
right.
never mentioned when women weren't in Parliament.
So when they
And
passed
so it wasn't
a law,
sexist.
when they passed a law to give women the vote, it was sexist to have a
That
law
was
just
very
about women.
That was very
Wasn't it?
sexist of them. Yes, I can
when
see
we passed
it
the
now.
referendum, referendum
Yes.
saying that we would count Indigenous Australians for the purposes of the census, when we passed that referendum, we were passing.
That was very racist.
It was
yes.
we were passing.
It was
referendums
racist
to do with race.
because it mentioned a race. Yeah, and
Yes.
it's racist to mention a race.
That's right. It is racist.
Because
but Charles,
yeah,
I don't.
I mean, I'm colourblind. Me, I'm
You
not.
are.
I can't see any. I don't see any colours, and that's
Isn't that because you're
that's the
so
least
white
racist
that
thing.
your eyes don't work? Because you're basically an
Yeah,
albino.
that's right. Did you know that that's true? That Rangers actually have this condition where the brightness of light is actually perceived differently.
Really?
Because it makes us squint more because we I don't know, we're just sort of so genetically weak.
This is an interesting point that. If we think of eugenic theories, the supposition that the white race was the master race was surely disproved from the off by the existence of rangers. No other race has rangers, only whites.
Yeah.
But Charles, look, my thinking on this issue has come such a long way in the past few months.
Yes.
There are lots of good reasons to vote no. Okay, for instance, if you think that, for instance, the stolen generation wouldn't have been improved by actually asking First Nations people if it was a good idea, then you should vote no. If you think the intervention should have gone ahead without any consultation, then you would vote no. If you think that laws should be done to First Nations instead of in consultation with, then you vote no. If you don't want to have to listen to anyone explaining how it's going to impact on them, if you just want to ignore First Nations, then you vote no.
I think you're complicating this, Dom.
Oh, yeah?
Because I think the whole point is you don't vote no because of anything like that. Like, that's very...
I
you
see
sort of
I've
sarcastically...
engaged with the issue, haven't I?
Yeah,
I've engaged with the
engaging
issue.
the issue. Yeah, no, the way to vote no, this is the way to vote no, is I'm angry at something that's happened in my life because, the traffic was bad this morning and I have unresolved sadness in my life resulting from a childhood trauma that I don't talk about because of toxic masculinity, and I just sort of bottle it up and just try and get ahead in life and just keep my head above water. And I'm struggling because interest rates are going up and Woolworths and Coles are the biggest fucking duopolists in the fucking world. I'm angry about all that, and so I'm voting no. Why should anyone else get anything about anything, ever?
Why should anyone have a moment
everyone
of
should
positivity?
suffer? I'm suffering, therefore everyone else should suffer.
Oh, look, I can really relate to that. And when I read today, Charles, in the news, that Alan Joyce's pay packet, his final pay packet, was set at $21.4 million after the board stripped back his short-term bonus and withheld further entitlements. What was left after that was $21.4 million. When I read that... Even though it has absolutely nothing to do with The Voice. I know that Alan Joyce has advocated The Voice and painted yes on the side of planes, and I say to him, Alan Joyce, just because of you, I'm voting no. Just because you want it.
I love it.
I'm voting no.
Yes.
The best thing Alan Joyce could do right now for The Voice is to advocate a no vote. He could come out in the public and say, look, I've seen the light, I don't understand it, and I'm voting no. And that's the one thing I think at this stage that would actually get The Voice over the line.
The Chaser Report. More news, less often.
Although, wouldn't they just go, see, he understands, how stupid and racist this is to vote yes, and
Where's
that's why
the
he's
voice
voting
for
no.
Irish
He's
people?
seen the light.
Where's the voice for Irish CEOs who've come here and made tens of millions of dollars out of Qantas? Where's that voice? It's racist to only have one voice.
Do you think Alan Joyce gets... Well, I suppose the thing is, if you were Alan Joyce, you wouldn't have, what I was describing, which is resentment at everything in life, which is probably why he's voting yes, isn't it? Because he doesn't wake up going, I'm worried about the cost of living and
No.
interest rates, because he goes, oh, well, I'll just spend some of my $21 million on that.
But the other thing is, Charles, you know the other reason why he believes in the voice to Parliament as the CEO of Qantas? Because he has one. He just
He
rings
has one,
Albo.
yes.
If he's
And he just
worried
goes-
about Qatar Airways coming, and he just when he's in the chairman's lounge, he just uses his voice and says, "Oh, Albo, if you want your son to
Yeah.
come into this place, block Qatar Airways." He knows the effectiveness of representation and consultation with Parliament because he does it on a daily basis.
And it works really well for Qantas. In fact,
works
I
very
suppose
well.
that's the whole thing is that if you want Indigenous people to prosper as much as Qantas has prospered, then you should vote yes to a voice, because
We have a system
we've
where
seen the
Qantas
template.
gets Yeah. So we have
It's a
all the
terrible
representation to possible for Qantas.
Yeah.
And
you
none
know
at
what
all
the
for First
mistake?
Nations.
You know what the mistake First Nations people have made, though, Dom? I've just
What's that?
realised is that they didn't set up a chairman's lounge.
They didn't set up a chairman's
If
lounge.
they had given,
That's
if they'd
what's
given
needed.
Peter Dutton access to their First Nations chairman's lounge, and
wouldn't
and
that
all of them,
be
the
powerful?
Angus Taylors.
Oh,
and
every single. If they'd set up a lounge at Canberra Airport, Charles, this is what should have been done.
Barnaby.
It's too late. If,
Yes.
if
And
First Nations
free-
had simply set up a cushy lounge with free drinks,
with a free bar, yes,
free
and
bar,
and
steaks,
that you can make,
It could have been called,
and it could be
the
Indigenous
first
theme. It could be kangaroo steaks. Like, it could be all Australian themed.
And they could call it the First Bracket Nations, and everyone would think it was first class, first
yes.
class Nations Lounge at Canberra
Yes.
Airport and at Sydney Airport for the
Yes.
commute. Peter Dutton would have been on board for sure.
Absolutely.
Is it too late?
No, I don't think so. No, they can do it.
Because, Kathy Freeman came out in support of The Voice today, which was very powerful. But if she'd come out into that lounge and if she'd been willing to take some photos with the politicians' kids and, just signed autographs for them and that would have been more effective. If she'd been in the First Nations lounge at the airport.
Thank God we've solved that, because I was going to get depressed in a few weeks' time when we voted no, but now everyone's going to vote yes because they wanted access to the chairman's lounge.
Now, the person who would actually take the most advantage of it, Jacinta Price,
Barnaby.
who has... she's done $76,000 worth of flights in recent times. And they asked her, was this because you've been campaigning against The Voice? Is this why you've had all these flights? And I think it was the Herald that asked her office, and the office said, no, it's in line with the requirements. And I think the Herald's response was, okay then, rather than, I don't know, going and looking at where the flights were to and from and what dates and comparing with the events that she did around the country. See what's going on. I mean, that would have been a way to find out if there was a scandal brewing. But better not to ask. Because if you ask, things will get explained. And it's much better not to ask for explanations, Charles.
Yes.
It's much better to just vote no.
That was very much the attitude of the Herald before Channel 9 bought it as well. All those fearful reporters of the Fairfax stable who...
Kate McClymont never wanted to know where the money was.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
I guess the bottom line is what we need at this point is to put Alan Joyce in charge of The Voice. If we simply... He needs a job. Forget all the First Nations spokespeople. What you need is Alan Joyce to save the day.
Yes, and in actual fact, what he can do is he can implement some sort of complicated frequent voters system.
Yes, rewards points.
Where you get rewards points for every time you vote or something.
And the other thing is, Charles, I guess, if you put Alan Joyce in charge of the whole referendum, it'd be cancelled at the last minute, which at this stage looks like it might not be such a bad idea.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast Network.
We'll see you next time. Or Mark Humphries. You never know.
Hopefully.